I'm going to introduce a special person here in a moment. But I had something very interesting happen this week. I had someone who works in the portfolio that I'm responsible for, Interior Health, ask for me to have a chat and share a story. And it's terrific when I get a chance to meet folks in my portfolio who share their experiences and wisdom and advice. And it's always great to give a VP a jab here or there. Michelle's story really touched me, and the timing was just so coincidental. And we're here for very important reasons tonight and tomorrow. Michelle's story really, for me, the moment she shared with me, I knew that we needed to have Michelle here to share her story with us, and I appreciate that she made the effort to come here. She's from Cranbrook, and we had this chat on Tuesday morning, and it's Thursday afternoon, and Michelle's here with us. And so with that, I'd like to introduce Michelle Evans to you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Michelle, as Andrew said, and I do work for Interior Health. And I'm also a mother. And I'm here to share my story and my daughter's story. Obsessive-compulsive disorder consumed every waking minute of my daughter's life and tore our family apart. Cassie was born on December 24th, Christmas Eve, 1994. She was our angel. Best Christmas gift anyone could ask for. Everything was great until about 1 month before her 11th birthday, when her safe, calm world fell apart. Almost overnight, OCD became the ruler of her ever-waking minute. She went from being the smart, funny, fun-loving, most popular kid in elementary school to a life none of us saw possible. Just a few examples are, Cassie could not spend money. OCD would not let her. So last year, she went without eating for days on end, and she only weighed about 85 pounds due to anorexia. She could not sit on the living room furniture in my house because I had a dog. The dog jumped up on it and contaminated it. She could not ride in the back seat of my truck because there may have been a dog back there, and he contaminated it. We had to turn the stereo off when she was around, but she never told us why. And finally, she couldn't hug me. For years, my daughter couldn't hug me. My stepson is mentally delayed, which is tied into Cassie's core fear. And she couldn't tell us that. It took about 4 years for her to be able to tell us that. And because I touched him, I was now contaminated. This is just a glimpse into the torture my daughter faced on a daily basis. We were the typical average family. My husband and I met, got married, had 2 children, a son and a daughter. We were living the dream. We took family holidays. We camped every summer. Both kids were active in sports. Both of our children were happy, healthy, outgoing, and friendly. We live in a rural community of approximately 20,000 people with very limited resources for children and adolescents with mental health illnesses. Because of this, we spent a lot of time, money, and energy looking for and traveling to larger cities for help. Over the years, Cassie had weekly appointments with her counselor in Cranbrook, weekly appointments with a psychologist in Calgary Children's Hospital, where she was later admitted. She was an outpatient at the Vancouver Children's Hospital, and at the age of 16 was admitted to the Vancouver Eating Disorder Ward. Not only was she in a war with OCD, but now anorexia was also present. From the age of 16, she bounced from Vancouver Eating Disorder Ward to Kelowna Adolescent Psychiatric Ward, the Cranbrook Adolescent Psychiatric Ward. She attempted suicide approximately 6 times during these years. She voluntarily presented herself at the Cranbrook Emergency Department with suicidal thoughts approximately 4 times. She was involuntarily admitted under the Mental Health Act to hospitals approximately 5 times. The strain an illness puts on an individual and their family is unbelievable. There are the why questions from us. Why is this happening? Why isn't it stopping? Why can't the doctors and psychiatrists do anything? Why can't she just go back to normal? That implies that a person is abnormal, and Cassie hated that. Anytime anybody said that to her, she would get so mad and she would say, "Don't call me abnormal." There's also the financial strain. The first year alone, we spent over $25,000 traveling to the larger cities for hotels, meals, gas, time off work. That was the first year. In 2011, after my husband and I separated, I spent from my household $15,000, and I don't know what he spent. There's the idea that we shouldn't talk about OCD to people outside of our family. It was too embarrassing, and society just didn't understand. What would people think about Cassie if they knew she couldn't even touch a door handle? There's the guilt. I feel guilty for not paying as much attention to my son as he deserved. He wasn't the kid on fire, so he got pushed to the back burner. And my own guilt. I too have mild OCD. It by no means cripples me, and you probably wouldn't notice my rituals if you saw me do them. But did I give it to my daughter? Is it my fault that her life is so locked down and so turbulent? During treatment, we heard everything from exposure hierarchy list to CBT to core fear. I now know what an SSRI is. I learned the difference between a psychiatrist and a psychologist. I learned that mental health is a gray area, meaning there's no cut and dry approach to treating an illness. I learned that obsessions are the things people trapped under OCD have to do because OCD is telling them to do it. Like, don't wear that jacket because the last time you wore it, you saw a dog. It walked in front of you and now your jacket's contaminated. The compulsions of the rituals are the things they must do to undo something they've done. Like now that they've worn the contaminated jacket, they have to tear off all the clothes that touched it. They have to keep repeating a phrase over and over. And they have to scrub their body repeatedly until the contamination is off. Sometimes this can take hours to get it right. I learned how strong my daughter was and how much fight and determination I have in me. Over the years, Cassie was labeled with various diagnoses. Some of these were borderline personality disorder, secondary gain, OCD, and even mother-daughter issues. It was during this family counseling session where the psychiatrist announced this new mother-daughter idea, where I saw the look of disgust on my husband's face. I knew then that my marriage was over. Some people even told us that Cassie wasn't really sick. There were too many discrepancies in some of the things she did or didn't do. She couldn't go into her dad's house for a while because somebody stepped on a mushroom, which is fungus, and has now contaminated his house. She could come into my house anytime she wanted, and there was always mushrooms in my fridge. Cassie became more and more isolated and lost friends over the years. I too have lost friends over the years. Near as I can tell, it's just too hard and too much work to maintain a friendship with either one of us. It felt like we were fighting for her life, the life she once had, the safe, calm, worry-free life of laughter and friends, not anxiety and rituals. There were times I felt so helpless. Once she was in the kitchen, she couldn't even open the fridge door. I just yelled at her to stop acting like that, just open the door. I didn't understand that it wasn't Cassie that couldn't open it. It was OCD. Cassie did tell me earlier this year that she forgave me for the way I behaved towards her years ago. She knew I didn't understand. I'm so thankful that she forgave me. I need to tell you that she was brilliant. I know all parents say this about their children, but she really was. Her brother and her cousin used to call her the brain. Her average mark in high school was 99.3%. She was awarded the Governor General's Academic Medal for her academic excellence. I later learned that she had to, in her mind, get better and stay above 99% in all her subjects, or her core fear was coming true. It also shows that mental health illnesses can affect anyone, any race, any age, any gender. On November 1st, 2011, she was admitted to a world-renowned inpatient OCD facility in Wisconsin. We learned so much during her stay there. She truly felt free from OCD. She wrote an honors essay before being discharged. Some quotes from that paper are, "I'm no longer crippled by anxiety. This was the catalyst that finally defeated the tyrant of my disorder. I find myself for the first time in more than half a decade free from OCD. And finally, for the first time in 6 years, my life is free of the oppression of OCD." And she hugged me when she got home. And hugged me every day after that. Approximately 7 months after being discharged, OCD and anorexia consumed her life again. This might be due to the lack of supports in our area for adolescents, the lack of support she felt from her family, or the pressure she put on herself to succeed in life, but most definitely was due to the power OCD had over her. On March 11th of this year, my beautiful daughter took her life. She didn't see a way out of the tornado she was living in. In her suicide note, she wrote 2 paragraphs that specifically refer to her illness. The first paragraph reads, "I'll not bother with a lengthy explanation to the factors that led to my decision to make suicide, except to say that my anxiety and distress seemed to be spiraling out of control again. Although I am aware from experience that both my OCD and my mood would have returned to more tolerable levels, I've experienced this roller coaster far too often to find comfort from that knowledge. What solace can be found from weeks or months of being content if, as has always been the case, another bout of depression is lurking around the corner? Such periods of happiness may be lovely and may even be more common than not, but they by no means make up for the misery that comes from watching my life deteriorate around me, or the panic that comes from being unable to even sleep or function as my obsessions grow more powerful." The second paragraph reads, "Regarding my worldly assets, I must begin with a foreword. Part of my OCD has long been an obsessional hoarding of money, to the point where I have on several occasions been unwilling to purchase basic necessities such as food. I have always been honest regarding loans or requests. If I claim not to have money, it was because any money that was put into my savings account became unavailable to me, and for all practical purposes ceased to exist. With that said, this is how I would like my assets divided." It's only been a few short months since Cassie passed away. For 8 years, my purpose in life was to help Cassie get better. I didn't know what my new purpose was after she died. I have since read 2 papers that Cassie wrote for her psychology class and her English class. One was titled "Suicide, the Tragic Symptom of Modern Society," and the other was titled "Obsessive Compulsive Disorder." One sentence she wrote in the OCD paper was, "Further education aimed at increasing public awareness about OCD therefore is essential in promoting more positive prognosis among people with OCD. My daughter has inspired me to reach out to people and professionals in our community and educate them more on OCD. Hopefully the next adolescent has a smoother path to travel with a better outcome." My goal and dream now is to bring awareness to the need for more supports for adolescents in our corner of the province, to fully support the idea of a full-time child and youth psychiatrist work in Cranbrook, and to bring in a specialized OCD speaker to our area to host a seminar for both the public and the professionals. With all the medical interventions, we know the earlier the age to start supporting these kids, the more likely we are to see positive outcomes. Cassie was only 16 years old when she came back from Rogers Memorial in Wisconsin. 7 months later, back into the black hole. She needed a psychiatrist specifically targeting our at-risk population, teens. Let's lessen the pain, the anxiety, and the depression for them before they reach high school graduation at age 17 or 18, before the added pressures of the real world hit home. Let's start early intervention when signs and symptoms first present, usually 12 or 13 years old. The adult psychiatrists currently in place are already at their full capacity in regards to client loads. Some are over capacity. It's not fair to them and certainly not fair to our children to say we're going to offer service and not provide it to its full extent. Our kids, your kids, deserve a full-time support system. This whole process is indescribably heart-wrenching. It almost did me in when I washed her clothes, had to put them in a box, tape it, and put it under the stairs. Her shoes are still sitting at my back door. I know she'll never walk in that back door again. I saw her being wheeled out. The realization is there. But I can't bring myself to put those shoes in the box with her clothes. I'll never forget the sight of coming around the corner, seeing 2 ambulances, a fire truck, 4 or 5 police cars, and my son's car parked in front of my house on March 11th. It was so surreal. And then when I opened the front door and yelled their names, it was the eeriest, quietest noise I've ever heard, and hope to never hear again, and hope that less parents have to hear that. Let's put a stop to this. All of us together, working together. Let's move this mountain for all the other parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, and most importantly, for the kids and adolescents in dire need of mental health support. Thank you. What I did bring with me were some pamphlets from my daughter's service. I'm just going to leave them on this table over here if anybody wants any. I'm just going to step out for a few minutes and I'll be back. Thank you all.
We have the chance now to have coffee and dessert and just recover. Okay?